In his inauguration speech at the Iranian parliament, President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad had something to say for almost everyone. His supporters, his opponents, and those he called enemies, without naming names. Octavia Nasr, CNN senior editor for Middle East Affairs, joining us live with more on his speech and what Ahmadinejad's global impact will be going forward. Octavia, I know you have an interesting examination of his speech.
Really, when you say almost everybody, we really mean almost, because the people who demonstrated, remember, for the last 7-8 weeks, we've been seeing Iranians take to the streets and demonstrate in huge numbers, call on Ahmadinejad to step down, actually chant for his death and the death of the supreme leader of Iran. All these people, Mr. Ahmadinejad did not mention. He did not talk about the turmoil. He did not talk about the election problems that he faced. He just addressed everybody as if everything is great in Iran, and he focused a lot on religion. Let's take a listen to a portion of what he said.
The victor is all the people, the revolutionary values, and the establishment and the Islamic establishment.
So a lot of focus on how his victory is a holy victory, how it was guided by God. He stressed a lot the idea of the Islamic Revolution, that it is the Islamic Revolution that won. And you couldn't help but notice so many empty seats in Parliament as he was being inaugurated. And this is really what many people in the Middle East and across the world focused on, all that absence. So basically the absence of so many people in there, including 2 former presidents of Iran, including the spiritual leader of Iran. Basically, people saying that this sends a clear message to Mr. Ahmadinejad that the next 4 years are not going to be easy to maneuver. They're not going to be easy to lead Iran. And basically, the absence of these people was the voice of the silent people who weren't there, but they were pretty active down in the streets.
Octavia, even the supreme leader wasn't there. What should we make of that?
You know, there was talk about a rift between the supreme leader and Mr. Ahmadinejad. It was basically about a position of a vice president. Mr. Ahmadinejad wanted to give the position to a relative of his. That really got many people upset in Iran. They didn't believe that that guy was the appropriate person for the position. He insisted on him. Then the spiritual leader himself got involved and advised against giving that position to this man. And Mr. Ahmadinejad for a while was acting like he's going to go against the wish of the supreme leader, and then at the end he gave in. He basically didn't give the guy the position, but he promised that he's going to give him a different position. So with all that in mind, people saw that there is a rift. There is definitely some kind of disagreement between the spiritual leader and Mr. Ahmadinejad. That is one. 2, within his party, within his conservative ruling party, many people did voice disenchantment with Mr. Ahmadinejad and his ways about this one appointment and many other things. So right now, you know, Mr. Ahmadinejad looked like he was inaugurated. He took over. He is going to be president for the next 4 years, but there are many, many question marks around him, his person, his behavior towards people within Iran and also towards countries outside of Iran. But observers are also saying that Mr. Ahmadinejad did show change, basically when he talked about what he calls the enemies of Iran. And really when he talks about enemies, he means the West, especially the US, especially Israel. And they felt, the observers listening to him, paying attention to what he said and his body language, they said that he toned it down. Even from the day that he was announced the winner of the election, that he toned down his rhetoric when it comes to those enemies. He talked about enemies, but he didn't mention them by name. He didn't bring in the Holocaust, which he denies that it existed. He didn't bring in the attacks, basically, that we got so used to hearing out of his mouth. And for observers, this is a sign that Mr. Ahmadinejad could have understood the message of the street, could have understood the message of those who oppose him, and he's acting accordingly. He's he's basically saying, as a matter of fact, he said it. He said he doesn't expect the West to offer any congratulations to him. This in response to a message from the U.S. and Britain and France saying that they're not going to send him any congratulating messages. So he said Iran is not expecting those. So the conclusion out of this is that he understands that the West is not a big fan of his, or not a fan at all, and he accepts that fact, but he's willing to deal with the West on that premise, and basically he's not expecting them to congratulate him or be his friends, but that he's willing to open up somehow to some kind of relationship with the West at this point.
Yeah, that's a big change. Meantime, I know that social networking sites have been critical to opposition and reform voices, and even though there were problems with Twitter and Facebook this morning, they were able to get in a number of messages with regard to Ahmadinejad's inauguration and his speech. Can you share some of that with us?
Sure. Actually, what we did, we gathered this information yesterday, right after the inauguration. This is when people were very active on Twitter and other social networking sites, and basically they were saying things like they do not believe that Ahmadinejad is their president. Very clearly, that's what they're saying. I don't have my notes in front of me, but there they are on your screen. So basically, you're seeing this here from, I think this was taken from a Facebook group that is anti-Ahmadinejad, obviously, saying the recognition of Ahmadinejad as Iran's elected leader is nothing more than an insult to the people of Iran who have resisted and continue to resist this fraudulent election and the injustices committed against them. So from Twitter, another comment that kept playing over and over yesterday, it's saying this is the voice of Iran and Ahmadinejad is not our president. As a matter of fact, many people took that one line and were retweeting it over and over and over again. And no confirmation, of course, this is coming from inside Iran. But as you know, we've seen the resistance to Ahmadinejad's win or alleged win in those elections from across the world, from across the globe. And basically these people are saying they're not happy with the results. They wanted to have new elections, and of course they didn't get what they wanted, and now Mr. Ahmadinejad was inaugurated yesterday as the new president of Iran for the next 4 years. Very important to say here that he faces huge challenges. Mainly now he has to form a government, and that government has to be accepted by parliament. And when you look at parliament in Iran right now, you have two groups that give him a big challenge. One, the opposition. These are the reformists. These are the people who lost in these elections. And they're going to give him a hard time because they want to see people in the government that they approve of. But also, and this is where things get really sticky for Mr. Ahmadinejad, within his own party, there are people in parliament, there are parliamentarians on his own party who do not approve of him and his choices. So now Mr. Ahmadinejad has to work very hard to come up with a government and cabinet positions that will be approved by parliament. And right now the majority as it stands between the reformists and the people within his own party who disapprove of him, they are the majority, and that's going to be his biggest hurdle. That's his biggest challenge, to come up with a government that will be approved by parliament. And you know, when you have voices still saying he's not our president and we don't want him to be the president, they're still asking him to step down. The future is going to be very interesting in Iran. The next few days, between now and the government approval time, it's going to be very interesting to see what people do, what the reformists are going to do about accepting him and accepting his choices for government.
Yeah, it is very interesting because they clearly don't want to lose any momentum that they may have gained, and also given the fact that there seems to be some friction within his own party, and even you mentioned the supreme leader, there could be some rift there. Who knows what will happen going forward? It's a very interesting situation. Octavia and Nasr, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Also, we want to let you know if you want to get some more information on Octavia's story. She did a full analysis, and there's some more details. Just go to cnn.com/world, and you'll be able to read more about Ahmadinejad and the future and where we may go from here.